Male children in our society are highly valued. This could be attributed to the fact that they have the cultural ability to carry on names as heirs of the family. To this effect, male children are trained to be courageous, to be tough, and to be daring. This puts a male child under a lot of pressure, trying to fit into the masculine code of conduct. When a male child experiences any form of sexual abuse, it becomes far more devastating. That brings us to today's topic, and that is the male child and sexual abuse. To discuss on this topic, I have with me, he's a male, of course, he's a male, and he is a health practitioner as a pharmacist, and he's also the resident pastor of the Divine Reality Believers Center here in Abuja. You're welcome, Pastor Odia Easy. Welcome. We're happy to have you on the
Thank you
show.
so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Bless you.
So, Pastor Odia, a male child in our society is not seen as a victim of sexual violence or sexual abuse, especially if the perpetrator is a female. What is your take on this?
I would like to say, first and foremost, that every child, both male and female, have intrinsic value. And we must look at it in this light, first of all, before we begin to specify. Now, you know I'm a Christian minister, so I will drive it home to the Bible first, and I'll use it to interpret my point of view.
Of course.
Now, the Bible says in Matthew chapter 18 and also verse 19, it talks about an encounter Jesus had with kids, with
Yes.
children. And the children wanted to come to Jesus and wanted to just have the feel of the master.
Yes.
They wanted him to pray for them basically, and just want to know Jesus. And his disciples stopped the children. They literally just stopped them in their tracks. And Jesus was like, "What you doing?" I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
You're like, "What are you doing? Allow them come, for such is the kingdom of God." So Jesus has a value he places on little children.
Very true.
As a matter of fact, he said, "For as many of you that tries to hurt any of these children, it will be better that a millstone is tied around your neck and thrown into the sea."
Very true.
So Jesus cares about the welfare of a child. Why must we care about the welfare of a child? Because children are vulnerable.
Very true.
They are dependent.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that they are not taken advantage of.
Very true.
And this is the way Jesus saw it. This is the way the scriptures put it. And this is the way we should see it, even as individuals in our modern world today. We must see children as people, as individuals, to be protected, to be loved, and to be nurtured.
Very true.
Now, talking about the question that
The
you just
male child.
asked, you just asked me about the male child.
Very true.
Talking about the male, specifically talking about the male child, I think you are 100% correct.
Okay.
It's a bit underrated, so to speak, because it is almost as if we hear a lot about girl child programs, girl child this, girl child
Everything
that.
is based on the girl child.
And it is almost as if these issues do not affect
the male
the
child.
male child. I think that is a great misconception. A lot in our society, there's a misconception that females or female children, the girl child, is more easily disposed to sexual abuse, but it is very wrong. Male children need also to be protected because even in our community, in our society, there are growing cases
Yes,
of
very true.
sexual abuse.
Very true. Very, very true, Pastor Odia. Pastor
Over the
Odia,
years.
the female child is basically, I wouldn't want to say they are riding on it, but there's so much focus on the female child that the male child has almost been forgotten or has almost been left aside. Maybe sometimes I could say, is it because of the child marriage issue, or we know that the male children don't get married at that age, of course, but of course they are also predisposed to abuse, and it also has consequences on these children. And we'll be talking basically about the male child and the underreporting that most sexual violence that are committed against male children or sexual violence against male children are always underreported. And could this be attributed to their physiology, or is it our cultural orientation as a society that makes or causes this underreporting of such cases?
I think one of the greatest issues that even surrounds other issues is that in our society, we do not understand the magnitude of impact that sexual abuse has on specifically the male child. And because we do not understand we do not value the situation, we do not understand how terrible it is, how it affects the child, it causes us to have different excuses that we give to allow it continue. All right? Talking about what you are saying, it is very true. I would agree with you that it could be attributed to physiology and also our cultural stance and disposition about the issue. Many a times we look at males and maybe male kids and we say, okay, like they don't have a hymen that can be broken.
Very true.
They don't have any physical manifestations
Very
of
true.
an abuse.
Very
So
true.
we say, okay, they're probably fine.
Except maybe if it's by a male on male,
Oh
right?
yes,
Except it's on a male
exactly.
on male,
Except
yeah.
it's on
On a
a
male
male on male.
yeah.
You don't really see a lot of that physical markings of abuse.
Very
So
true.
we begin to say, okay, maybe it is more grievous with females, and I think that is a cultural misconception
It's a misconception.
that we really need to treat and also talk about.
Yes.
And also, yes, we talked about the physiology, like we talked about the
Yeah.
hymen. Yes, many a times, because of the physiology of the man,
Exactly.
the young child that is a male, the parents will say, "Oh, you're a man. Nothing really happened to
I
you."
totally do. I can relate with it because I grew up with three boys and I knew my mother would give me sex education.
Okay.
But it wasn't for my brothers because they wouldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
But I would get pregnant. So you see, every girl child at the age of 7, 8, they're already talking to you. You know, don't get pregnant, don't do this. Once you get into your puberty, but the male child is as free as a bird.
Very true.
And as careless as you know, most parents don't pay attention, and this kind of exposes or they are at that predisposition of having to experience more or less most of these incidences and the reporting back to that's what we're talking about. Reporting of these incidences, they are highly underreported, and it could say because it like you said, it's our cultural orientation or our cultural perception that a male child, I mean, it's just a male child after all, nothing happened to you, and then so what's the need? There's no need to report this. In fact, sometimes I even feel, you can correct me, that it's really underreported, maybe because the society itself does not see why a male child who should be courageous, something like I don't know where to come from that perspective, that orientation that you are a man. How can you say you have been abused? You know, that masculine effect. That masculine effect. That is part of the orientation we're talking about. And most children, male children that have suffered any form of violence, sexual violence, they have to man it up, right?
Yes, because from what we understand, what is happening in our society, it is basically under acknowledged.
That's the word, under acknowledged.
Beyond,
not even acknowledged.
yes,
I mean,
beyond being reported.
Exactly.
It's something that is acknowledged that can be reported.
Exactly.
So it's pretty much under acknowledged.
That's very good. Under acknowledged is the right word. And so moving to the next question, Pastor Odia, do you believe that male on male child sexual abuse is a growing secret and can disorient a male child's sexual orientation? Male on male child sexual abuse. I think that is the one that is acknowledged. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're very right. This is the male on male, of course, is the most popular of the situations that we can acknowledge, so to speak, because of course there are physical manifestations that we could see maybe by a health practitioner's diagnosis.
Yes.
Now, but when we want to look at it, let me just still be on this male on male. I don't want to go back to female and male, so to speak. It is more exposed than it was many years ago.
Yes.
Because we have begun to see that in a lot of institutions, in a lot of organizations, in a lot of settings, these things have been they continue and they begin to happen over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it really disorientates the sexuality of children.
Okay.
Many people don't understand this. Many people might not know about it. You might have a child coming to say, "This is the issue. I've been molested, mom," but you might not immediately see the gravity of the situation, but over a period of time, it is statistically known. That is, you can check the statistics, check the data. It is statistically known that many or most sexually perverted individuals are individuals that were abused in their younger days. So you begin to see them having affinity for maybe younger, also having affinities for perverted experiences sexually. And it's not just that. So basically, this is the issue that we have, and this is the issue on ground when it comes to male on male sexual abuse.
I think that has been very common. I know we are not a society that promotes that sexuality, but it's now very rampant.
It's on the news every day.
And it's when it happens to children. Of course, we know that male on male sexual abuse, especially male on male child, always come from an authority, like maybe their teachers, their coaches, or their spiritual heads. That kind of form of, males are not like females, so it has to be it's very empowering to abuse a male child. And like, a child is a child. It doesn't matter if he's a man, he's vulnerable. So a child is still vulnerable to be coerced. Is still vulnerable to be overpowered by someone who is bigger or who has more strength than the child. So it's something parents must put in perspective to understand that yes, he's a boy child, he's brave, but he's only a child. Let's not talk about toddlers. We can talk about toddlers, they're helpless, but you can say, because boys have this thing with showing bravery. They want to feel brave, they want to feel tough. Of course, that is how the society and how it has been for a man, like from my introduction. But parents need to understand that male children need to be looked out for. They need to be protected. Because when such things happen, male children don't speak up. Statistics have proven that it's easier for females to talk about sexual abuse or sexual violence as compared to males. So it speaks for children too. So, Pastor, what are the effects sexual abuse can have on a male child?
Okay. Like we've talked about in the previous question, one of the issues that the male child could have in the long run is a sexual disorientation. Child might be led to believe he is something he is not.
Very true.
Over the course of time.
Very true.
So that's one of the major issues that we see statistically speaking. That's one of the major issues we see. But another thing that we do see as an issue is the issue of the self-worth of the child.
Okay.
The value the child places on himself. That innocence is ripped from him.
Very true.
At such a tender age, and that child begins to feel as if he has no value. Why am I talking about this? Because these experiences usher in a lot of other issues in the child's life in the course of his development.
Very true.
I'm a pastor and I will speak in the line with my calling and the work I have done as a pastor. So there are times people bring people for us, pray, pastor counsel. So when we begin to counsel people that are young people, especially young people that have issues and have had issues over the years, maybe with drugs, maybe with misdemeanors, with vices, I can tell you from my experience, 65 to 70% of the individuals, of these young people, teenagers, that have had these issues, these addictions, they always had sexual abuse in their history.
Very true. Very true. So there's a connection between sexual abuse and drug abuse. It's most times, many times, I think it's a fight to I want to use the word cover up. I'm looking for a better word. To cover up or to live with it. It's a fighting chance. So you use substance to subdue what you're going through.
To suppress that emotion, because we see it when we counsel people. It is to suppress the pain. It is to they use other vices to suppress the anger. You see, and you see them acting out. It's because they have a bad image of themselves. They feel that they don't amount to anything.
Yes, maybe they don't longer see themselves as men, especially if they've been abused by another man. There's this thing that you feel you've stopped being a man. I don't know, correct me because I'm not a man. Imagine as a man being violated, or as a boy in your prime being violated by another man, you start to see yourself, someone did this to me that makes me lesser of a man. Right?
No, what you're saying is absolutely true. And what you're saying points to the shame effect.
Okay.
There is a lot of shame, and I think the shame might be more with men, according to your research.
Exactly.
The shame is so much, and with the expectation our society puts on a male, it's difficult to talk about it. And you don't talk about it, you can't be free of it.
Can't be free
So
of it.
that shame causes them to shrink into their shell and to have developmental problems in life. So this is something that really affects male children a lot, really.
I can imagine it's far more devastating for a male child, because a male child is not wired like a female child. Female children can talk about stuff, female children can talk about their feelings, but a male child is not wired that way. It's more devastating. So, and if you can speak, of course, the number one rule of therapy is to be able to talk about it. If you can talk about it, then you can get help. And like you said, our society has so much expectations on a male child, and I believe the pressure is too much. It could be as bad, it could even be suicidal for a male child. You would rather die than, like you said, substance abuse and all that. It's a sort of social vices, and that's what we're seeing in society today. And I believe this is something that is really, really eating up our society. Finally, I would just want you to throw a word of advice to the society, to parents, guardians, caregivers, on this issue on male child and sexual abuse.
Thank you, and I want to really appreciate you for the time. I mean, we've really learned a lot so far. I want to see that, especially for this particular question that you have asked, we have to answer it categorically, because you have spoken about different demographic that we need to give an advice to. So first of all, let us talk about what we just want to say to parents and guidance. All right. For parents and guidance, we need to create more awareness about the issue, because it is rampant and it is prevalent in our society. So we want to create more awareness and more education. People, parents and guardians need to be more educated about the issue, about the effect, about the problem. We need to be educated about how to protect our male children from the problem, from the abuse. So that is something I want to tell, or I want to advise our parents and guardians about. Also, the next category is the victim.
Yes.
Now, when a male child has already been abused, it's a different ball game. What we can advise is that individual or that child gets help immediately, gets counseling immediately, because they need it, because the experience is very traumatic. So they need that counseling to help them in their development, so that the effect is not great on them. Now, the last category of people you asked about is, you asked me to talk to, is the society at large. One thing I would say is that we need to stop victim shaming.
Thank you.
We need to stop victim shaming. We need to be countercultural about bad culture.
Very true.
Because a lot of children can't talk about it because they feel too much shame, and they feel that society or social media will just destroy them.
Very true.
So they rather just live with the pain, live with the guilt, live with the pain, and it ends up ruining their lives. So in our society, we need to make sure that we do not shame the victim. Rather, we must raise the victim. Wow. We must help the victim. Wow. We must care for the victim. Wow. And we must train the victim to live above the incident that was so traumatic and so greatly affected that life. So our society, we must make sure that we heed to this for greater development in our society. Also, for the greater society, or for the society at large, we must make sure that we are aware. We are educated, that we are on guard, even for our male children. Because I tell you the truth, the same way it affects the female child. That is the same way it affects the development of the male child.
Wow.
They might not have a lot of physical manifestation. That is, if it's an older female to a male child,
Yes.
there might not be a breaking of a hymen or
Yes.
a physical manifestation,
Very
but
true.
the psychology, the psychological impact, there's something I call a psychological laceration on that child that has a long-term effect on that child. So I would say we need to be more aware as a society and more educated. And like I said earlier, we must not shame the victim.
Wow. In Pastor Audio's words, no to victim shaming. And with that, we've come to the end of today's program. For victims, it's very important to get help, like Pastor Audio rightly said. Parents of victims, society at large, to get help, please, you can call the toll-free line displayed on the screen, the CCRA toll-free line, and you get counseling. They offer all sorts of help on issues of sexual violence against children. Thank you once more for being on this show. I'm sure you've learned so much on today's program, and we hope to see you next time.